trusted her with everything. She was my best friend. The sister I never had, the one who knew every secret, every dream, every fear I'd ever whispered in the dark. We laughed together, shared tears, and promised that nothing would ever come between us. I thought loyalty meant safety. I thought she'd protect me the way I protected her. But in my first life, love and friendship became my ruin. She moved quietly, kind, attentive, always near. When I stumbled, she helped me rise. When I celebrated, she smiled wider than anyone else. I thought her devotion was pure. But behind every gentle touch, there was calculation. She watched, waited, learned how to unravel me piece by piece. It began with whispers, soft, harmless things that slipped between people like smoke. I didn't notice how the air around me changed, how the smiles turned faintly cold. By the time I realized what was happening, her web had already wrapped around me. She stole him first, the man I loved. Not through passion, but through pity. She knew exactly how to make herself look small, fragile, and tragic. He fell for it. When I spoke, he said I was being jealous. When I cried, he called me cruel, and when I tried to tell him the truth, he turned away as if my words were poison. She'd studied me too well. Every weakness I had, every wound I'd ever confessed, she used. She fed him stories about me, how selfish I was, how unkind, twisting my kindness into guilt, my confidence into arrogance. He believed her because her lies were wrapped in tears. I still remember the moment I saw them together. His hand on hers, her eyes full of innocence. My chest hollowed out as I understood. It had all been planned. I confronted them, shaking and desperate. She wept on command, claiming I'd wronged her. He defended her with fury, declaring he'd never known love until her. That night I lost everything. My reputation collapsed, my name dragged through every whispering hall. Friends vanished. Invitations stopped. I was left alone, the villain of her story. When they married, the world cheered for their fairy tale love. I watched from the shadows, too broken to speak. And then I died. It wasn't dramatic, just quiet. A cold, empty night, where my heart simply gave out under the weight of betrayal. I thought it was the end, but fate had other plans. When I opened my eyes again, I was back, years before everything fell apart. My room was warm, sunlight spilled through the curtains, and I could still hear my mother's voice downstairs. My heart stuttered in disbelief. I had been given a second chance. This time, I wouldn't be naive. I smiled when I saw her again. The same sweet face, the same innocent eyes. She hugged me tightly, whispering how much she'd missed me. I hugged her back and whispered, "I missed you too." But in my mind, I was already building walls she'd never breach. I played the fool she expected, warm and open, but this time I was watching. I saw the patterns I'd missed before, the pity she cultivated, the charm she used to make others protect her. I let her believe I was still blind, even as I quietly undid her every move. When she whispered lies, I replaced them with truth before they could take root. When she sought to isolate me, I drew people closer with honesty and quiet grace. Every rumor she tried to spark died before it could burn. Slowly, the web she spun began to unravel. The man I once loved appeared again, the same gentle smile, the same eyes I used to dream about. My heart wavered for a moment, but only for a moment. I remembered what he'd done, what he'd believed, how easily he'd cast me aside. So I greeted him politely, no longer the girl who chased affection. I was someone he couldn't read, couldn't control. Perhaps that's what caught his attention this time. He began to watch me differently, to hesitate before her, to look for me in a room even when I was silent. But I didn't give him the chance to get close. Let him feel the emptiness he once left in me. When she tried to bait me, the fake accidents, the trembling tears, I didn't fall for them. I let her perform her drama, calm and composed, until her audience began to notice how rehearsed she sounded. The sympathy she once commanded began to turn to doubt. And then, when the moment was right, I struck. Not with fury, but with proof. Letters she'd forged, words she'd twisted, the witnesses she'd manipulated, all of it, neatly gathered and delivered to the right hands. Truth, patient and relentless, did what vengeance alone could not. The tide shifted, her mask cracked. The world she'd built on deceit began to crumble, slow and merciless. Her allies disappeared. Her admirers whispered about the lies she'd told. And the man she'd stolen, my former love, finally saw her for what she was. He came to me afterward, eyes filled with guilt, voice trembling as he asked for forgiveness. He said he had been blind, that he'd chosen wrongly, that he'd never stopped thinking of me. I listened quietly, the same way he once listened to her lies. But the woman he'd known no longer existed. I loved you once, I told him softly. And you destroyed that love with your doubt. I don't hate you, but I don't need you either. He reached for me, but I stepped back. Some things, once shattered, aren't meant to be remade. As for her, she fell alone. The pity she had weaponized turned to silence. People looked at her the way one looks at a fallen idol, disappointed, but not surprised. When she left the city, no one stopped her. I didn't follow. I didn't celebrate. I simply lived. Rebirth taught me that revenge is not victory. Survival is. I rebuilt my life quietly, surrounding myself with people who saw me for who I was, not for who others said I should be. I learned that kindness needs boundaries, and that trust, once broken, should never be given freely again. Some nights I still dream of the past, of the girl I once was, the fool who believed friendship meant safety. But when I wake, I breathe easier, knowing she no longer exists. I became someone stronger, not cold, but wise enough to protect the warmth that remains. The last time I saw her face, it was in a newspaper headline. The story of a woman ruined by her own lies. Her beauty had faded, her smile brittle. I felt no satisfaction, only peace. Because the truest revenge was not her fall. It was my freedom. This time, I live on my own terms. I love slowly, trust carefully, and walk through the world with eyes wide open. She taught me betrayal. Fate taught me rebirth. And I taught myself how to rise.